Accepting your true identity is one of the most profound acts of courage a person can demonstrate. It means looking deeply within yourself, recognizing who you are beyond all expectations, roles, and social pressures, and deciding to live in alignment with that truth. It's about embracing your strengths and weaknesses, your passions and fears, and your light and shadow without shame. True self-acceptance doesn't come overnight. It's a lifelong journey of understanding, forgiveness, and self-discovery. But once you begin to accept yourself as you are, without constantly trying to mold yourself into someone else's image, you unlock the freedom to live authentically and fearlessly. From the time we are children, we are shaped by society's opinions. Parents, teachers, friends, and the media all send subtle messages about who we should be. We learn early what is considered acceptable, what is praised, and what is criticized. Over time, many people begin to hide parts of themselves to fit in. They suppress their individuality to avoid judgment, rejection, or ridicule, but in doing so, they disconnect from their true identity. Living this way creates an internal conflict, a gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. That gap drains your energy and diminishes your sense of self-worth. Accepting your true identity closes that gap and brings you peace. When you truly accept yourself, you stop fighting with your own reflection. You recognize that perfection doesn't exist and that your value is not determined by other people's opinions. You begin to understand that every part of you, your personality, your emotions, your mistakes, your scars, has contributed to the person you are today. When you focus on your path, your growth, and your purpose, comparison fades and self-acceptance takes root. It's also essential to forgive yourself. Many people struggle to accept who they are because they're holding on to guilt or regret from the past. They judge themselves harshly for mistakes and failures, but forgiveness is a key part of self-acceptance. You must understand that mistakes don't define you. They shape you. Each failure is a lesson, each setback a step forward in disguise. Forgiving yourself allows you to let go of the weight of the past so you can live fully in the present. Accepting your true identity also means embracing your uniqueness. There is no one in the world exactly like you. Your thoughts, your voice, your experiences, they all create a perspective that is entirely your own. Too often, people hide what makes them different because they fear standing out. But the very qualities that make you different are the ones that give you power. The world doesn't need more copies. It needs individuals brave enough to be original. When you embrace what sets you apart, you become an inspiration to others who are still afraid to do the same. True acceptance is also about aligning your actions with your values. When your inner beliefs and your outer behavior are in harmony, you feel balanced and confident. But when you compromise your values to please others, you feel anxious and disconnected. Being yourself means living by your principles, even when it's difficult. It means having the courage to say no when something doesn't feel right, and to stand firm in your truth even if others disagree. Of course, accepting yourself doesn't mean you'll always feel confident. There will be days when you doubt yourself or wish you were different. That's natural. Self-acceptance isn't a permanent state, it's a practice. It requires daily reminders, compassion, and patience. When those moments of doubt come, treat yourself the way you would treat a close friend, with understanding, not judgment. Tell yourself, it's okay to be imperfect. I'm still learning, and that's enough. The more you accept yourself, the more your confidence grows. You stop seeking validation from others because you realize you don't need it. You stop pretending because you no longer have anything to prove. And most importantly, you start attracting people and opportunities that resonate with your authentic energy. When you are real, you naturally draw in what is right for you and let go of what isn't. Accepting your true identity also gives you emotional freedom. You no longer waste time wearing masks or trying to please everyone. You become comfortable in your own skin. You begin to enjoy solitude because you appreciate your own company. You make decisions with clarity because they come from your heart, not from fear. This kind of peace cannot be found through external achievements. It comes only from within. Finally, self-acceptance opens the door to deeper connections with others. When you are genuine, you invite authenticity from those around you. People trust you because they sense your honesty. You no longer build relationships based on pretending. You build them based on truth. This allows love, friendship, and respect to flourish naturally. In essence, accepting your true identity is the foundation of happiness and courage. It is the realization that you are enough, just as you are, and that your worth isn't measured by others' approval, but by your ability to live authentically. It's about choosing to honor your individuality in a world that constantly pressures you to conform. When you fully accept yourself, you stop chasing perfection and start living with purpose. You begin to see that being yourself is not a weakness. It's your greatest strength. It allows you to shine without fear, speak your truth without hesitation, and walk your own path with confidence and grace. Because at the end of the day, the bravest thing you can ever do is simply be yourself, unapologetically, wholeheartedly, and completely. Letting go of the fear of judgment is the next courageous step after accepting your true identity. Once you begin to embrace who you are, your beliefs, your values, your imperfections, the real challenge becomes living that truth openly in a world that constantly tries to define you. You might accept yourself internally, but the moment you express your authenticity, the eyes of others seem to turn toward you. The opinions, the whispers, the expectations, they can all make you question whether being yourself is worth it. But the truth is, you can never live freely until you release the fear of what others think. This fear is one of the strongest chains holding people back from their true potential. From an early age, society trains us to seek approval. We crave validation from parents, teachers, friends, and later from colleagues or social media. We begin to believe that our worth depends on how others perceive us. That mindset makes us hide our real selves, our creativity, emotions, or even our dreams, because we fear rejection. We silence our voice to avoid criticism and end up living a version of ourselves that pleases everyone except us. But here's the paradox. The more you try to be what others want you to be, the less satisfied you become. You can't please everyone, no matter how hard you try. People will always have opinions. Some will support you, others will judge you, and that's okay. Their perspective is shaped by their experiences, not your truth. When you understand this, you stop taking others' judgments personally. Their criticism says more about them than it does about you. This is where the connection to self-acceptance becomes powerful. When you truly accept yourself, the fear of judgment loses its grip. Acceptance creates inner strength. It gives you the confidence to say, "This is who I am, and I'm okay with it." You no longer depend on external validation to feel worthy, because your sense of self-worth comes from within. Acceptance becomes your shield. It protects you from the opinions and expectations that once controlled you. The courage to let go of judgment begins with shifting your focus. Instead of constantly worrying about how you appear to others, focus on how you feel about yourself. Ask yourself, am I living in a way that feels true to me? Am I proud of the person I'm becoming? When your actions align with your values, the opinions of others begin to matter less. You realize that your peace of mind is far more valuable than their approval. Another important aspect of overcoming this fear is understanding that judgment is inevitable. No matter what you do, people will always talk. If you fail, they'll have something to say. If you succeed, they'll have something else to say. You cannot control their reactions, but you can control your response. Instead of trying to avoid judgment, learn to face it with grace. Let others' words pass through you like the wind, felt for a moment but never strong enough to move you off your path. To truly let go of judgment, you must also learn self-compassion. When you are kind to yourself, the opinions of others lose power. Often, it's not the judgment itself that hurts. It's the way we internalize it. We start to believe negative opinions and repeat them in our own minds. But when you treat yourself with understanding, you create a safe space within your heart that no external voice can invade. Being authentic in a world that constantly tells you who to be is an act of rebellion. And it takes courage. But remember, every great leader, artist, and innovator was once judged for being different. They were called dreamers, failures, or fools before they were called geniuses. What set them apart was their refusal to let judgment silence their truth. They understood that authenticity always invites criticism before it earns respect. The flower doesn't compete with others around it. It simply exists, unapologetically alive, basking in its own light. That's what it means to live without fear of judgment. In the end, the courage to be yourself is not about proving anything to anyone. It's about standing tall in your truth, knowing that your value isn't dependent on anyone's approval. It's about waking up each day, looking in the mirror, and saying, "I am enough as I am." When you master this, judgment loses its power, and authenticity becomes your greatest strength. The people who truly matter will see your light, and the ones who don't will fade into the background. Because when you live without fear of judgment, you finally step into the freedom of being who you were always meant to be. And that is where real happiness begins. Trusting your inner voice is one of the most defining steps in the journey of self-courage and authenticity. It is the natural continuation of accepting who you are and letting go of the fear of judgment. Once you've embraced your true identity and released the weight of others' opinions, the next challenge is to begin listening to yourself. That quiet, steady voice within you, the one that knows what feels right, what aligns with your purpose, and what makes your soul come alive, is your guide. Learning to trust it requires faith, patience, and deep self-connection. Your inner voice is not always loud or clear. It doesn't shout to get your attention. It whispers. But in a world filled with noise, expectations, distractions, opinions, it's easy to lose touch with it. From a young age, many of us are taught to seek direction externally. We are told what is right, what is safe, what is acceptable. We begin to doubt our instincts, replacing them with the beliefs and values of others. Over time, this disconnection from our intuition creates confusion and dissatisfaction. You might find yourself making choices that look good on the outside but feel wrong on the inside. You might chase success defined by others and still feel unfulfilled. That's what happens when you stop trusting your inner voice. It's like silencing your own compass. To rebuild that trust, you first need to believe that your inner wisdom exists and that it's worthy of being heard. This voice isn't emotional impulse or fleeting desire. It's the deeper awareness that comes from your true self. It's the feeling in your heart when something aligns with your values, the calm clarity that tells you what's right for you, even when logic or fear disagree. Trusting it means honoring your truth, even when the world tells you otherwise. This step is deeply connected to letting go of judgment. When you fear being judged, you tend to ignore your intuition because you worry it might lead to choices that others won't approve of. You second-guess yourself, asking, "What will people think if I do this?" But when you release that fear, you create space for your inner voice to be heard again. The noise of the outside world begins to fade, and the wisdom within becomes clearer. In that silence, you find your direction, not from others, but from your own understanding. Sometimes your inner voice will tell you to take a risk, to walk away from something safe, unfulfilling, or to pursue a dream that others might doubt. In those moments, your courage is tested. But every time you choose to trust yourself, you strengthen that connection and grow more confident in your path. Linking this to the previous ideas, you can see a clear evolution. In self-acceptance, you find peace within yourself. You learn to love who you are. In letting go of judgment, you free yourself from the weight of others' opinions. You stop living for them, and in trusting your inner voice, you begin to guide yourself. You start living for you. These three are connected like steps on the same staircase. Acceptance builds your foundation. Freedom from judgment clears the path. And trust in your intuition moves you forward toward purpose and authenticity. When you start trusting your inner voice, life becomes less about external success and more about inner alignment. You stop chasing what others call happiness and begin creating your own definition of it. You become more intentional in your choices, more grounded in your beliefs, and more resilient when challenges come. You realize that you don't need approval because you already have something stronger: self-trust. And when you trust yourself, you naturally inspire others to do the same. People are drawn to authenticity. They can feel when someone is living from truth rather than performance. By following your own voice, you become a quiet example of courage for those still searching for theirs. It's about knowing your worth without feeling the need to prove it. It's about walking through the world with quiet strength, aware that you are different, but refusing to see that as something negative. You realize that the world doesn't need another copy. It needs authenticity. It needs voices that challenge norms, perspectives that bring change, and individuals who inspire courage in others simply by being real. However, standing in your uniqueness also means facing resistance. Not everyone will understand you, and that's okay. Some people might criticize you or doubt you, but that's part of the journey. The world often resists what it doesn't understand, yet those who persist in their uniqueness eventually redefine what is possible. When you learn to see rejection as redirection and criticism as a test of faith, you no longer let others decide your worth. You begin to move with purpose instead of seeking permission. This strength also requires patience. The world may not immediately value your uniqueness, but with time, it will recognize its light. The same ideas people mock today might be the ones they admire tomorrow. So, stay consistent. Keep walking your path, even when it's lonely. Remember that authenticity may isolate you at first, but it will later connect you with those who truly resonate with your truth. Linking this point to the previous three, you can see a natural evolution. Self-acceptance helps you discover who you are. Letting go of judgment frees you from fear. Trusting your inner voice gives you guidance. But standing strong in your uniqueness is where all of that turns into action. It's where your inner courage meets the outside world. It's the expression of everything you've built within. Think of it like a tree. Self-acceptance is the root that grounds you. Letting go of judgment is the space that allows you to grow. Trusting your inner voice is the trunk that gives direction. And standing strong in your uniqueness is the blossoming where your individuality blooms for the world to see. Without the first three, the fourth cannot exist. They all feed into one another to create the strength to stand proudly as yourself. Standing strong in your uniqueness also means embracing the idea that your path doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Your timing, your pace, your dreams, they're all your own. You don't need to follow society's timelines or measure your success by someone else's standards. The more you live authentically, the more you realize that happiness and fulfillment come not from imitation, but from creation, from building a life that reflects your truth. When you stand in your uniqueness, you become a light for others who are still afraid to be themselves. You show them that it's possible to live honestly, to chase your dreams without compromise, and to still find peace in a world that often misunderstands authenticity. You become proof that real beauty lies in individuality, not conformity. Ultimately, standing strong in your uniqueness is the celebration of everything you've discovered about yourself so far. You stop hiding from pain because you realize that pain often carries wisdom. You stop fearing failure because you understand that failure shapes growth. Vulnerability teaches you that you can survive disappointment, heartbreak, or rejection and still remain yourself. That realization is liberation. When you combine the lessons from the previous points, accepting your true identity, letting go of fear of judgment, trusting your inner voice, and standing strong in your uniqueness, You build a foundation of inner strength. Vulnerability then becomes the doorway through which that strength expresses itself in the world. It's how your authenticity takes form in relationships, work, art, and self-expression. In essence, vulnerability is where courage meets compassion. It is the moment when you stop fighting your emotions and start embracing them. It is when you stop pretending and start living. By being vulnerable, you honor your humanity, and in doing so, you create a space for love, empathy, and genuine connection to flourish. So as you continue this journey of having the courage to be yourself, remember, standing strong in your uniqueness shows your power, but embracing vulnerability shows your heart. Together, they make you not only authentic, but deeply human. And that, more than anything else, is what the world truly needs. Living with purpose and integrity is the final and most fulfilling stage in the journey of having the courage to be yourself. It is the point where everything you've discovered and cultivated within, self-acceptance, freedom from judgment, trust in your inner voice, the strength of your uniqueness, and the power of vulnerability, comes together to form a life that is meaningful, grounded, and true. It's where you stop just being yourself and start living as yourself, consciously, intentionally, and with values that guide your every action. To live with purpose means to know why you are here and what you stand for. It doesn't necessarily mean having all the answers or following one grand plan. Rather, it's about waking up each day with a sense of direction, with a reason behind your choices, and with an awareness of what truly matters to you. Purpose gives your life meaning beyond the surface. It fuels your actions, sustains your motivation, and brings peace even during challenges. It's not something you find outside of yourself. It's something you uncover within through reflection, honesty, and self-awareness. Integrity, on the other hand, is the moral backbone of your purpose. It is about staying true to your values even when it's hard. Integrity means your words, actions, and beliefs align. It means being the same person privately that you are publicly. When you live with integrity, you stop compromising your truth for comfort or approval. You don't bend your morals to fit the moment. You let your character be your guide. And when you combine purpose with integrity, you live not just a successful life, but a meaningful one. This principle deeply connects to embracing vulnerability, the previous stage in the journey. Vulnerability teaches you to open up, to live honestly, and to face the world as your authentic self. But living with purpose and integrity takes that openness and turns it into direction. It channels your authenticity into action. Vulnerability allows you to be real. Purpose and integrity allow you to live right. It's the quiet courage to say no when something doesn't align with your principles, even if everyone else says yes. It's the willingness to walk away from anything that compromises your authenticity, even if it costs you comfort or approval. Living with purpose and integrity also brings inner peace. When you live in alignment with your values, you don't have to pretend, explain, or justify yourself. You experience clarity, a sense of balance that comes from knowing you're walking the right path. You may not control every circumstance in life, but you control how you respond, and integrity ensures your responses come from wisdom rather than impulse. This stage also amplifies the lessons of standing strong in your uniqueness. When you are truly unique, your purpose will also be unique. You won't be driven by comparison, because your journey will not resemble anyone else's. You'll understand that living with purpose isn't about being better than others. It's about being better than you were yesterday. It's about serving, creating, and growing in a way that reflects your soul. And when integrity joins that journey, your actions inspire trust and respect. People begin to see that your words carry weight, that your choices have meaning, and that your life is built on authenticity, not performance. Integrity turns your uniqueness into influence, because people don't follow perfection, they follow truth. Purpose and integrity also deepen your connections with others. When you live truthfully and act consistently, you attract people who value the same. You build relationships based on respect, honesty, and shared principles. You inspire others not by preaching, but by example, by showing them what it means to live a life aligned with one's values. Moreover, living with purpose and integrity gives you resilience. Life will test you through failures, disappointments, and uncertainties. But when you live for a reason greater than comfort, and when you hold firm to your values, no storm can break you. Purpose gives you direction when you feel lost, and integrity keeps you steady when the world tries to shake your foundation. When you connect this final stage to the entire journey, you can see the transformation come full circle. Self-acceptance taught you to see your worth. Letting go of judgment freed you to express it. Trusting your inner voice gave you guidance. Standing in your uniqueness gave you confidence. Embracing vulnerability gave you emotional courage. And now, living with purpose and integrity gives you meaning and wholeness. This is the ultimate expression of the courage to be yourself. Not just to know who you are, but to live who you are, every single day, regardless of circumstances. It's when your thoughts, words, and actions all move in harmony with your truth. It's when you no longer chase validation because you found fulfillment within. It's when you realize that the purpose of life is not to impress the world, but to express your soul. To live with purpose and integrity is to live awake, to live each moment with awareness, intention, and truth. It's the realization that happiness doesn't come from pretending to be someone else, but from being at peace with the person you've become. And when you live this way, you inspire others not just through what you achieve, but through how you live, with honesty, compassion, and authenticity. In the end, this is the essence of courage: to accept yourself, to express yourself, to stand by yourself, and to live in alignment with your true values. The courage to be yourself isn't a destination, it's a way of life. And living with purpose and integrity is its highest expression, where every decision, every word, and every action becomes a reflection of your truest, most powerful self. Self-acceptance doesn't mean you stop growing or improving. It means you no longer see yourself as broken or inadequate while you grow. It's acknowledging your humanity with compassion and grace. The first step toward accepting your true identity is self-awareness. You must take time to know yourself, what you believe in, what drives you, what brings you joy, and what drains your energy. This means listening to your inner voice instead of the noise of the world. Many people are so busy trying to live up to expectations that they forget to ask themselves, who am I really? What do I truly want? When you start to listen to your own truth, you'll realize that deep down you already know who you are. You've just been afraid to live it. Self-acceptance also requires honesty. It's not about pretending that everything about you is perfect. It's about admitting your flaws and accepting them without letting them define you. Everyone has weaknesses, insecurities, and fears, but pretending they don't exist only strengthens their control over you. When you acknowledge your imperfections, you take away their power. You become free to improve from a place of love, not self-hate. Another important part of accepting your true identity is letting go of comparison. Constantly measuring yourself against others is a trap that leads to unhappiness. There will always be someone smarter, more attractive, or more successful. But those comparisons are meaningless because every individual has a unique journey. Your purpose isn't to be better than anyone else. It's to become the most authentic version of yourself. Letting go of fear also means accepting that not everyone will like you. And that's okay. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to live your truth. The people who truly belong in your life will love you for who you are, not for the image you create to please them. And the moment you stop performing for approval, you attract genuine connections. People who see you, respect you, and value your honesty. This freedom from judgment also allows your creativity to flourish. When you stop worrying about what others think, you give yourself permission to experiment, to fail, and to grow. You start expressing your ideas without fear of being wrong. You speak your thoughts without overthinking every word. That authenticity gives your life energy and purpose. It's where true confidence comes from. Now, let's link this idea back to the first point. Accepting your true identity gives you the foundation, but letting go of fear of judgment gives you wings. Acceptance is about internal peace, making peace with who you are inside. But releasing judgment is about external freedom, having the courage to show the world who you are without apology. One cannot exist fully without the other. You can't truly be yourself if you're still chained by the opinions of others, and you can't ignore judgment unless you've already accepted the person you are within. Think of it like this. Self-acceptance is planting a seed. It's where your confidence begins to grow. Letting go of fear is what allows that seed to bloom into a flower, open and vibrant, unconcerned with whether others appreciate its beauty. Trusting your inner voice is also a reflection of self-acceptance. When you truly accept who you are, you automatically start believing that your thoughts, feelings, and decisions are valid. You no longer see yourself as someone who constantly needs guidance or permission. Instead, you begin to realize that you already carry the answers you seek. Your intuition becomes your most loyal ally. It helps you navigate uncertainty, choose what aligns with your truth, and recognize what doesn't belong in your life. Of course, trusting your inner voice doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. Sometimes you'll follow it and still stumble. But even those moments serve a purpose. They teach you to refine your understanding of that voice, to differentiate between intuition and fear. The more you listen, the stronger it becomes. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the more confident you get in recognizing its signals. Learning to trust yourself also requires silence and stillness. In a noisy world filled with endless opinions, social comparisons, and digital distractions, it's hard to hear that quiet whisper inside you. That's why solitude is so powerful. When you spend time alone, reflecting, journaling, meditating, or simply being still, you reconnect with your essence. You begin to hear your thoughts clearly and understand what truly matters to you. Those moments of inner peace are where the voice of intuition speaks the loudest. Another vital aspect of trusting your inner voice is courage, the courage to act on it. Listening is only half of the journey. Following through is what gives it power. Ultimately, trusting your inner voice is the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. It's the compass that keeps you aligned when the world tries to pull you in 100 directions. It's your connection to your essence, your purpose, and your peace. When you accept yourself, you find inner harmony. When you let go of judgment, you find freedom. But when you trust your inner voice, you find direction. And in that direction lies the courage to be fully, unapologetically yourself. Standing strong in your uniqueness is the next bold step in the journey of becoming your true self. It is the point where self-acceptance, freedom from judgment, and trust in your inner voice all come together and manifest in the way you live, speak, and carry yourself in the world. To stand strong in your uniqueness means to not just know who you are, but to proudly express it, even when the world pressures you to conform. It means embracing the qualities, dreams, and perspectives that make you different, and recognizing them not as flaws, but as your greatest strengths. In a world that often rewards sameness, being unique takes courage. Society subtly teaches us to blend in, to dress alike, think alike, and live alike, because being different can invite criticism or misunderstanding. But the truth is, progress, innovation, and inspiration have always come from people who dared to be different. Every person who changed the world, from inventors and leaders to artists and thinkers, began as someone who refused to fit into the mold. Their uniqueness became their power. Standing strong in your uniqueness begins with self-acceptance. You cannot celebrate what makes you different if you still see it as something to be ashamed of. When you fully accept your true identity, you stop comparing yourself to others and start recognizing your distinct qualities as gifts. You understand that your personality, your background, and even your struggles contribute to the story only you can tell. This acceptance gives you a foundation of confidence, an inner strength that allows you to walk your own path, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. This step is also deeply connected to letting go of the fear of judgment. Once you free yourself from the need for approval, you become brave enough to show your true colors. You stop hiding your quirks, your passions, your voice, or your dreams just to fit in. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. When you no longer fear judgment, you no longer hesitate to be yourself. You begin to realize that authenticity might not please everyone, but it will always attract the right people. And then comes trusting your inner voice, which strengthens your ability to stand tall in your individuality. When you trust your intuition, you no longer seek direction from the crowd. You know what feels right for you, even if others disagree. You become guided by your inner compass rather than external opinions. This inner trust allows you to follow your dreams, pursue unconventional paths, and make decisions that align with your truth, no matter how unusual they may seem. Standing strong in your uniqueness doesn't mean arrogance. It means confidence with humility. It is saying to the world, "This is who I am, and I am proud of it." It is the moment when you stop shrinking to fit and start expanding to shine. It's the moment when you stop apologizing for being different and start honoring it as your greatest power. And when you reach that point, you don't just live, you inspire. You don't just exist, you make an impact. Because being uniquely yourself is not just courage, it's freedom. It's the kind of strength that can move others to find their own voices, accept their own identities, and trust their own journeys. So, as the path continues forward, remember this truth. The courage to be yourself begins with acceptance, deepens with freedom from judgment, strengthens through trust in your inner voice, and shines through the power of your uniqueness. Embracing vulnerability is one of the most powerful and transformative steps in the journey of having the courage to be yourself. It is the moment when you allow your heart to be seen, unfiltered, unguarded, and real. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is in fact the truest form of strength. It takes immense courage to open yourself up, to show your emotions, to admit when you're hurting, and to express what you genuinely feel in a world that often celebrates perfection and hides imperfection. To be vulnerable is to stand before life with honesty. It means saying, "This is me, my fears, my hopes, my struggles, my dreams," and allowing others to see both your light and your shadows. When you embrace vulnerability, you give yourself permission to be human. You no longer have to wear masks or pretend to be strong all the time. Instead, you begin to understand that real strength lies in authenticity, in being able to admit that you don't have it all figured out, and that it's okay to stumble along the way. This concept deeply connects with standing strong in your uniqueness. When you choose to stand out and be different, you also expose yourself to misunderstanding, rejection, and criticism. That exposure is what makes vulnerability necessary. You can't fully embrace your uniqueness without accepting that some people may not understand it, and that's okay. Vulnerability allows you to handle that reality with grace. It teaches you to stay open-hearted even when faced with resistance, and to keep showing up as yourself even when it feels risky. If standing in your uniqueness is about expressing who you are boldly, then embracing vulnerability is about expressing it honestly. Uniqueness shows your individuality to the world. Vulnerability shows your humanity. Together, they form the essence of authenticity. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you bridge the gap between yourself and others. People connect with honesty, not perfection. They find comfort in seeing someone who is real, someone who struggles, feels pain, yet still stands strong. Vulnerability is also an act of trust. Trusting yourself enough to believe that even if others see your imperfections, you are still worthy of love and respect. It means trusting that your openness will not destroy you, but instead deepen your connections and bring healing. When you hide your true feelings, you may protect yourself temporarily, but you also distance yourself from genuine relationships and self-growth. By being open, you create space for empathy and understanding to flourish. Moreover, vulnerability is the foundation of emotional strength. When you deny your pain, fears, or insecurities, they grow stronger within you. But when you face them with honesty, they begin to lose power. Acknowledging your emotions doesn't make you fragile. It makes you free. It releases the weight of pretending, the burden of perfection, and the loneliness of isolation. You start to realize that vulnerability isn't about falling apart, it's about falling into truth. In many ways, embracing vulnerability is the continuation of the journey that began with self-acceptance. You first learn to accept who you are, to silence the fear of judgment, to trust your inner voice, and to stand proudly in your uniqueness. Now, vulnerability takes you even deeper. It invites you to show that self to the world, without walls or filters. It's the test of your authenticity. Can you remain true to yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain? Can you let people see not just your strength, but your softness too? When you embrace vulnerability, you begin to see beauty in imperfection. You realize that flaws aren't failures, they're signs of being real. They are proof that you are living, growing, learning, and feeling. Vulnerability allows you to transform your pain into purpose and your fears into fuel. Every time you share a piece of your story, you heal a little more and inspire someone else who might be silently fighting the same battle. Think of how vulnerability connects to trusting your inner voice. When you listen to your intuition, it often pushes you to take risks, to speak up, to express, to love, to try again even after failure. But doing those things requires vulnerability. It requires the courage to face uncertainty, to put your heart on the line, and to step forward without guarantees. The voice within you tells you to live honestly, and vulnerability is the act that makes that honesty visible. Vulnerability also reinforces the courage you developed while standing strong in your uniqueness. When you are truly unique, you may not always fit in, and that can feel isolating. Vulnerability allows you to handle that loneliness with authenticity instead of resentment. It teaches you that you don't have to harden your heart to protect yourself. You can remain soft and still be strong. In fact, the strongest people are those who dare to stay open in a world that tells them to close up. When you embrace vulnerability, you give others permission to do the same. You become an example that it's okay to not be perfect, that it's okay to feel deeply and show it. People who seem unshakable often inspire admiration, but people who are open about their struggles inspire connection. Vulnerability is what turns inspiration into empathy. It's what makes others feel seen, heard, and understood. There is a deep spiritual beauty in vulnerability as well. It allows you to live in truth rather than illusion. You stop seeking approval because you realize that being real matters more than being liked. When you embrace vulnerability, you acknowledge your emotions and your humanity. When you live with purpose and integrity, you use that awareness to make decisions that reflect who you truly are. Think of it this way. Vulnerability opens the heart, integrity guides the path, and purpose gives that path meaning. You cannot live with integrity if you're still hiding behind masks, and you cannot live with purpose if you're disconnected from your true self. That's why the earlier steps are essential. Self-acceptance allows you to understand who you are. Letting go of fear of judgment frees you to express it. Trusting your inner voice helps you listen to your truth. Standing in your uniqueness lets you own it. Embracing vulnerability lets you share it. And now, living with purpose and integrity ensures you live by it every single day. When you live with purpose, you stop chasing meaningless goals set by others. You no longer measure success by wealth, status, or recognition. Instead, success becomes about alignment, about living a life that feels right, not one that simply looks right. You focus on growth, contribution, and fulfillment. You start asking questions like, what impact do I want to make? What kind of person do I want to be? What legacy do I want to leave behind? These questions lead you closer to your purpose. Integrity, meanwhile, protects that purpose. The world will constantly test your values. There will be times when doing what's right feels difficult or inconvenient. But integrity is what keeps you grounded in truth, even when the easier path tempts you.